Alright guys, welcome back to Daily Read. Once again, the working website is realhistorywww.com, and the WW stands for worldwide. Now, about the subject matter, the last time we left off we were talking about the origins of the phrase the true Negro. And so this is the actual website. And so what you want to do is once you click on to realhistorywww.com, just go ahead and slide down. I mean, you can read any part that you choose, but just the subject matter at hand. And the premise again for this whole website is that the world's first human beings and all their civilizations were diverse blacks. Okay? Alright, so we go down to the quote, the true Negro. So what you want to do is you want to click here. Let me go ahead and put this cell phone down. We don't make all that noise. Perfect. Now, and you go over here and it says ancient man and his first civilizations. You go ahead and you click on reason and history for the term true Negro and pictures of modern Egyptians. Click there. Perfect. Okay. Let me click this off. Go off. Perfect. All right. So I think we left off. Okay, we see a sultan with a tiger, the emir, Persian king. Okay. All right. Bear with me here. Yeah, I think we passed all of this. Yes, we did. Dred Scott. Yep. All right. Almost there. Okay, so last time we left off at, but not content with the lie of speech, the white man in the 19th century and 20th centuries created scientific lies to bolster his claim. All right, let's start here. All right, here we go. Samuel George Morton, 1799 to 1851. One of the inspirers of physical anthropology, collected hundreds of human skulls from all over the world and started trying to find a way to classify them according to some logical criterion. Influenced by the common theories of his time, he claimed that he could judge the intellectual capacity of a race by the cranial capacity, the measure of the volume of the interior of the skull. A large skull meant a large brain and high intellectual capacity. And a small skull indicated a small brain and decreased intellectual capacity. By studying these skulls, he decided at what point Caucasians stopped being Caucasians and at what point Negroes began. Morton had many skulls from ancient Egypt and concluded that the ancient Egyptians were not African but were white. Morton's big mistake here was evidence. There were just too many Egyptian statues hanging around, which clearly showed that Egyptians were, of course, black people. Thus, this was too big a lie, even for the white man. So Morton and his theories quickly fell into disrepute, but an indication of just how pathetic some whites are as regards to race. Some still believe that Egyptians were white people. You really have to want to believe it for that to make any sense at all. Side note, has anyone noticed the virulence of the words used above? Those were not words of description or even words of criticism. They were words of hatred and damnation. What could it be that compels the white man to use such hateful words against another human being? More follows. Okay? So once again, we're talking about the origin of the word, the true Negro. Okay? This is from a white scientific journal. In modern craniofacial anthropometry, Negro describes features that typify skulls of black people. Okay, and it says these include a broad and round nasal cavity, no dam or nasal sill, skin below the nostrils. Okay, a notable facial projection in the jaw and in mouth area, prognatisms. Okay, so you have pictures here showing what they call the true Negro. And it says maxillary prognatism, jaw without prognatism, and mandibular prognatism. Okay, a rectangular shaped palate, roof of the mouth, a square or rectangular eye orbit shape, and large megadontic teeth. Very big teeth. Okay, actually, okay, prognatism is more common in the European albinos and in the Mongol people than it is in blacks. But as we have seen, and we will see time and time again, when the albino people are making up stories to glorify themselves and degrade others so as to compensate for their albinism and other defects, truth is of no consequence. Yep, they have prognatism right here. Yep. Wow, it sure does. Yep. Okay, so does the true Negro. Okay, and here she is right here, which, it's a person. I don't see the problem, but whatever. Okay, moving up. While at the same time, the white man says this, though African populations are relatively dark, according to a recent study, they possess a greater genetic skin complexion diversity than all other populations. Seems that the white man is of two worlds here, schizophrenic even, and can't seem to make up his mind. In times past, his lies were believable, because few people had ever traveled the world, or been to Africa and seen real Africans. So even though the young man above is quite handsome in his own way, there really aren't many blacks or Africans who look like him. Very few, as a matter of fact. Funny thing about white people, though, all of these below seem to have almost the exact phenotype as the black person next to them. Strange. The only difference seems to be pale skin, blonde or red hair, and blue eyes. Wonder what could account for that? Genetic mutations. Yeah, yep, basically. Yep, all phenotypes or facial features can be found on black peoples. Yes, sir. Albinism. Albinism is a form of hypopigmentary congenital disorder characterized by partial or total lack of melanin pigment in the eyes, skin, and hair. Albinism is hereditary. The principal gene which results in albinism prevents the body from making the usual amount of the pigment melanin. Most forms of albinism are the results of the biological inheritance of genetically recessive alleles, or genes, passed from both parents of an individual, though some rare forms are inherited from only one parent. Because organisms with albinism have skin that lacks sufficiently or entirely the dark pigment melanin, which helps protect the skin from ultraviolet radiation coming from the sun, they can sunburn easily from overexposure. Lack of melanin in the eye also results in problems with vision. The gene OCA2, which basically, guys, is an acronym for oculocutaneous albinism type 2. Okay? When in a variant form, the gene causes the pink eye color and hypopigmentation common in human albinism. Different SNPs, SNP stands for single nucleotide polymorphisms, within OCA2 or oculocutaneous albinism type 2 are strongly associated with blue and green eyes. Hair color, excuse me, hair color is the pigmentation of hair follicles due to two types of melanin, eumelanin and pheomelanin. Generally, if more melanin is present, the color of the hair is darker. If less melanin is present, the hair is lighter. Blonde hair can have almost any portion of pheomelanin and eumelanin. but both only in small amounts. More pheomelanin creates a more golden blonde color, and more eumelanin creates an ash blonde. Blonde hair is common in many European peoples, but rare among peoples of non-European origin. Many children born with blonde hair as they age. Red hair ranges from vivid strawberry shades to deep auburn and burgundy, and is the rarest fully distinct hair color on Earth. It is caused by a variation in the MC1R gene. That's a gene associated with red hair, by the way, guys, and believed to be recessive. Excuse me. Red hair has the highest amount of pheomelanin and usually low levels of eumelanin, and is the rarest natural human hair color. Okay. Another funny thing about albinism, in some cases, it seems to even straighten the hair. Well, okay, let me interject right here. Okay, so straight hair is a recessive trait, and woolly hair is a dominant trait. Basically, what makes woolly hair dominant are the spirals, right? So what happens is you have a dominant and you have a recessive. Brown bread is the dominant, while the white bread is the recessive. If you know how to extract the lesser variant from the dominant variant, from this case, the brown bread, the eumelanin, and the white bread, pheomelanin, you can get a variation of the original thing. So two peoples with, for example, woolly hair, if there's a code change passed on in the sperm and egg that tells the gene that produces the spirals to omit the spirals, by omitting the spirals, you get the opposite, straight hair. So that's a code change or a mutation. So two woolly-haired peoples gave birth to the first straight-haired person. Okay, and just likewise, two brown-eyed peoples can produce a blue-eyed person, or green eyes, or hazel eyes, or gray eyes. Okay, it's basic genetics. Once you understand science, it's like seeing an orange-striped tiger give birth to a white tiger. One variation produces another variation. Okay. Anyways, I digress. Nigerian parents in London with their third child. And as you can see, the majority of the people who call themselves white, they're pink skin or red skin. Okay? Moving on. Real Africans. A small sample and by no means comprehensive of the great diversity of African types. Egypt. And a lot of these people, guys, are admix peoples. All the different invaders who came through over time. You can tell because a lot of their skin type very brown or something. You know, some admixtures there. Dr. Zawi Hawass, you know he's not one of us. He's a devil. Okay. Alright. Okay. And so basically the whole premise now is the term true Negro was created out of malice or contempt. Because, you know, when you have hatred for people, you tend to create something to denigrate or devalue the people. But they didn't realize that black peoples, based on the science, are the most genetically diverse, being the originators of humanity and all civilizations. We come with all phenotypic characteristics or morphological traits. Okay? Now, he says, there is probably surprise that real Egyptians look as they do. This is certainly not what you see in the white man's book, television programs, and movies. That is because the white man's media is merely a tool or a weapon in the white man's vendetta against blacks. We have seen his vitriol in describing blacks, but that would ring hollow. When considered against the majesty of black achievements in the past, therefore, he has, with the aid of his media, tried to take that past away. His media shows the creators of the world's great civilizations as whites, or at the very least, the mixed race people who currently inhabit those lands, but never as the blacks that they truly were. In the case of Egypt, most mixed race and all white Egyptians live in the large cities of Egypt, Therefore, the white man very skillfully uses his media to show the world only those, or what he wants it to see. Thus, all that he will show you is the whites and mixed race people of Egypt. But this is also true the world over. Though blacks are the most ancient inhabitants of lands the world over, the white man will rarely show blacks of any consequence anywhere outside of sub-Saharan Africa, that is. That is true. The white man seems to have some deep-seated need to portray the world and to see the world as full of his own kind. Though part of that may be a subconscious response to the fact that the whites are the least numerous of the world's people, there is much more to it, and certainly no one could argue that online publications like Wikipedia, Answers.com, and the like, which claim to impart knowledge, would not be quite different with black ownership, or at the very least, some semblance of black oversight. But what's the point of all this? The white man has gone to great lengths to lie about and to denigrate blacks. Why does he do that? If he doesn't like blacks, why not just leave them alone? After all, when the white man was in Central Asia, blacks did not follow him there. They left him alone. It was the white man who intruded upon blacks in Europe. It was the white man who intruded upon blacks in Western Asia. It was the white man who intruded upon blacks in Australia. It was the white man who intruded upon blacks and Asians in the Americas. It was the white man who intruded upon blacks in their own homeland of Africa. So why doesn't he just leave them alone? Question. Their answer is really quite simple. If you feel that you have an inherent weakness, the best defense is a good offense. The white man was and still is quite sensitive and defensive about his genesis and his unnaturalness. The white man is the result of the albinos of southern Africa joining together and trekking to North Asia as part of the second out of Africa migration event circa 50,000 BC. White-skinned people exist as a result of black-skinned people making them. That is true. Same way brown-eyed peoples make blue-eyed peoples. Same way black hair peoples can produce red heads and blondes. Genetic mutations. Making them, okay, so that was black-skinned people making them. These people are called albinos. Once they have been created, if they are foolish enough to mate with each other, they will only produce other albinos. To produce a normal human, they must mate with melanated humans. They did this on their way to North Central Asia, and that is why modern whites are not fully fledged albinos any longer, but rather partially melanated humans. But for reasons unknown, perhaps because there was not enough melanated humans available to mate with in Central Asia. Note the skin color variation in their former neighbors to the east in China. These whites were not able to return to full melanation, and so at some point the white man decided that he was going to make, by proclamation and force of arms, his defect and disadvantage into an advantage. It worked for a long time. Returning to the United States of America, which, as we saw above, seemingly tried to refine racism to an art form, it is amusing to note that when the whites in that place are not engaging in some sort of overt racism, they are applauding themselves for managing not to do it. They must view it as the normal and natural thing to do. Recently, the people of the United States elected a black man, Barack Obama. This was way back in 2008, I believe. Now it's 2020, so yeah. Barack Obama as president of that country. Since then, There's been no end to the self-congratulations of whites upon this great deed. They just cannot get over the fact of their great magnanimity in accomplishing the great feat of electing their leadership based purely on qualifications and merit and not on race. But as always is the case when dealing with whites and the truth, it is never what they tell you it is. A closer look at the numbers revealed that, in fact, the majority of whites in the United States did not vote for Barack Obama. 56% voted against him. Of the 44% who did vote for him, that may simply reflect the nothing to lose rule, which became prevalent in the American Rust Belt in the 1960s and 70s. Rust Belt refers to the former American region of heavy manufacturing in the North. In these northern cities such as Detroit and Cleveland, as manufacturing moved elsewhere and whites followed, blacks were able to gain political advantage, and the remaining whites joined with the blacks to elect political leadership. But for whites, this did not reflect a change in attitude towards blacks. Rather, it was simply an acceptance of reality. Things were bad and getting worse. The outlook was hopeless and there was nothing to lose, so why not give the blacks a chance? If they succeeded, whites would benefit the most, owing to their more advantageous positions, and if the blacks failed, then they would take the blame for the entire debacle. No one ever said whites were necessarily stupid. Having said all of that, this is of course only one, the obvious aspect of the white man's many and complicated feelings towards black people. And it must be noted that there are many fine and upstanding white people in the world. No people are all bad or all good. Similarly, it must be noted that albinism is a trial and a debilitating defect for those who suffer with it. And it is duly noted the discrimination and assault that people with it suffer in southern Africa. And thus the white man may have some ancient justification for his ill will towards black people. And we regret having to use pictures of these suffering people in making our point. Okay, and this is showing normal people and their albino children or siblings. Now, let's review these pictures. Okay. It says sometimes albinism is partial and affects only one feature. This is what I call a point mutation, when mutation only reduces the melanin, the black stuff for the hair. So you're born with black skin and blonde hair, or black skin and with red hair, or it affects only the eyes, where you're born from brown eyes but you come out with blue eyes, green, hazel, or gray. Okay? All right. So that was the whole true Negro. And once again, guys, we'll pick up from where we left off. I appreciate you guys, just at least participating, listening to the program. Once again, the working website is www.realhistorywww.com, and the www is short for worldwide, where the premise is the world's first human beings and all of their civilizations were diverse blacks, guys. And I will see you next time. Peace.